Good morning, everyone. It's Friday. Yes, it is February 20th, 2026. And you are with me live here in Central West Virginia. If you're watching live, I know I have some morning warriors out there, as always. I realize that a lot of people have busy schedules, can't watch it live. But there's just something special about watching it live, I think. At least I would think it would be. Anyway, good morning, everyone. It's the beginning of the weekend for many of us, including me. I love weekends. I love every day. Who am I kidding? Anyway, I'm glad you're along, whether you're watching this at 7 o'clock at night or 7:30 in the morning. I hope I got a lot of stories today. Got a lot of things going on. It's a lot of really short stuff. So good morning. It is new every morning. And, life is really new every morning. Everything starts over. It's a new day. And you can start your day over, your life in some ways over. No matter how many times you messed up in whatever you're trying to accomplish yesterday, there's still today. And I have to use that a lot because I mess up a lot. So anyway, so we'll get started in a minute. So anyway, I'm going to continue to do this podcast Mondays and Fridays for now. I need to grow the audience. If the audience doesn't grow, at some point I will move on because I'm not reaching the potential of what I could get through this. I like doing it. I enjoy doing it. It takes a lot of work. Believe it or not, I'm on here for 15 or 20 minutes, but it takes me a lot of prep time because I look for a lot of stuff that I think would interest you and interest me. That to get on to this show, there's two things that have to happen. Number one, I have to be kind of interested in it. And number two, I have to think you might be interested in it. And if it doesn't meet those two criterias, it doesn't get on here. So anyway, I hope you're having a wonderful Friday, no matter when you're watching this, or Saturday, or whenever you watch it. I know I hear from people that watch it 2 or 3 days later, and that's fine. This information is great information a week later. That's the reason I have a YouTube channel. Good morning, Donna. I have a YouTube channel called It's New Every Morning that I post all of these on. So if you want to go back and look at 2 months ago, you can find it there. I'm trying to get better at naming the podcasts so that you can find certain things. If you want to go back and find a story or whatever, you'll be able to do that. And I've had several people ask me about my Crisco story that I did on seed oils. It's on there. I don't remember which podcast it is right now, but if you want to know, let me know. I can find it. I'm also looking for direction. I'm constantly want to make this better. And so if there's, some days I do a lot of medical stuff. Some days I do a lot of studies. Some days I do a lot of fun stuff. Sometimes I do a lot of serious stuff. I go different ways. And if there's a particular direction you would like for me to go, I kind of mix it up a lot of days, like today. And I'll go different directions. I like to have a variety of things. And I got a bunch of little things today and a couple longer ones. But I probably should get started, or you're gonna have to go to work or something. Who knows? I know I'm gonna have to. Not to work. I have a business, but I have to go to work my business. All right. Let's get started. Physics.org. Yeah, physics.org. Physics. I love this story. A recent study showed that Mars was warm and wet billions of years ago. The finding contrasts with another theory that says that it was mainly cold and icy. The results have implications for the idea that life could have developed on the planet at one time or another. Now, I got problems with this story, okay? Come on now. So Mars is a planet that no human that we know of, has ever been on. It's a long way away. All they do is kind of have robots maybe that walk around it or something. I don't know. But from all that, they can tell that it was wet and warm billions of years ago. And, some of these stories, some of these studies are like, give me a break. I mean, really? I mean, you can tell all this stuff from a place you've never been, and you can tell what happened billions of years ago. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. So anyway, but I thought it was a funny story. So I wanted to add it. If you think all that stuff is true, God bless you. My next study, I do a lot of studies. This one I found interesting. A new study finds that being organized as a personality trait may help you live longer. Yeah, people that are organized may live longer. That's what this study says, man. For some people look at my life and look at me and they'll say, man, is he organized? And other people look at me and say, man, is he disorganized? Okay, so I don't really know where to put me in this organization stuff. I have a big desk. I spin a lot of plates. I do a lot of things. So I have piles of some different things. So someone looking at my desk would say probably, you're not very organized. Well, on the other hand, I have files and I'm very organized. I have everything where I want it. I know where all my things are. And when I want to work on this, I go here. When I want to work on that, I go there. So I am pretty organized at my desk, although it may not look like it. But in other parts of my life, I try to stay organized as best I can. But there are times in my life where I am not organized. And I hope you're an organized person, as long as you don't go stupid with it. Don't go crazy. Don't be an organized nut. Don't fret over not being organized, because I know that's not healthy. Okay, let's move on to the next story. Okay, which I love this story too. So an Illinois judge rules that a boneless wing does not need to come from wing meat. A judge in Illinois decided that, and I agree with him. Apparently, a man's claim he was deceived by the wording at Buffalo Wild Wings because it had no meat. Basically, his claim had no meat on its bones. I don't know. Anyway, I know that's a pun and it's pretty average, but I went ahead and did it. Aimen Halim, close enough, wanted the judge to order Buffalo Wild Wings to rename its boneless wings to something like, and I quote, chicken poppers. That's what he wanted to call them. That's what he wanted them to call them. He said he wouldn't have bought the product if they weren't wings, causing financial harm to him. It's like, these this is a financial harm because I bought these things that aren't actually coming from a chicken wing. They taste great. They're wonderful, but I am harmed. So, you can take that for whatever it's worth. Apparently, this man has done a little bit of suing in the past on other things. So anyway, we won't go into all that. We won't tarnish his image any more than it has already been tarnished by thinking that boneless wings were actually coming from chicken wings. I don't know how they could think that, but anyway. Moving along, Pixar is releasing a trailer for Toy Story 5. Yeah, 5, in case you missed 4, 3, or 2 somewhere along the way. Number 5, it is Pixar's longest running franchise. Now, the good news is that Tom Hanks and Tim Allen will be back as Woody and Buzz. So Toy Story 5 is coming. And apparently the trailer, if it's not out already, will be out any day. And it's probably already out. You can go to YouTube and find things like that, or other places. Okay, next story. A single blood test is shown to predict the onset of Alzheimer's symptoms within 3 or 4 year margin, potentially advising clinical trials and preventive treatments. So they say this blood test can kind of predict that the symptoms are on their way before they come. Therefore, being able to do things, that's my serious story of the day. Well, my most serious story of the day. So that'd be great if there's a single blood test that can predict that ahead of time. There you go. And, there are, I'm not going to make a joke about that. There's some jokes out there that I could make on this subject. But it is a serious subject. I won't do that. Moving on. Can a fluid store solar energy? Question mark. What do you think? Now, we're pretty good at storing energy in like batteries and stuff, right? Solar energy, batteries. But we're not very good about storing heat. Heat. Store electricity, yes. Storing heat, no. Well, there's this new research in California, a couple universities in California got together, and they're saying that it can be stored and released as heat months later in liquid. They've come up with a liquid form that they can use with solar panels apparently and store in liquid the solar energy that then, in the summertime, for example, and then later on when they need the heat, they can take it out of that and much more efficiently than trying to do that with batteries in any way. Now, this is new technology. It's still test market, but if they can come up with a liquid that you can use through the summer to store and then use in the winter to heat, that would be big. That would be big. And I think as time goes on, solar energy is going to become more and more a part of our life because technology is going to keep it moving. And that's good. I mean, I think that a lot of solar energy things are not, to the point where they're usable for everyone, but they're getting there. And that's good news. I think that's good news. So, Amtrak. Yeah, our railroad system of riding around in the United States. They're going to do the largest fleet replacement since 1971. Yeah, we got a bunch of old trains carrying people around, apparently. Now, trains in Europe, they've updated them a lot. And they're very updated and very modern, but not in the United States. I mean, obviously, there hasn't been a big replacement since 71. Now, they are saying that if you haven't ridden Europe trains, the modern ones, that when you walk into these new trains, it's going to be like fantastic. You're going to love them if you've been on the old Amtrak trains. So they're coming. I don't think it's all going to happen this year. They're going to start them, I think, this year and through a series of a few years, try to replace maybe all of them. So that would be pretty cool if you want to ride around the country on a train, and a lot of people do. I know people do and love it. And now it's going to be more modern. Good for them, I say. Okay. Oh, I love these last two stories. In the early 1960s, Norman Shapiro was walking through New York City when he spotted vendors keeping pretzels warm with small ovens. They wanted to keep warm pretzels. That's when they wanted to serve them. And so they would keep them with small ovens. Well, Shapiro was executive sales manager at a toy company called Kenner Toys. So the idea of easy bake ovens began with pretzels. Now, as I understand, I didn't write this down, but I understand that way back, like 100 years earlier, or almost 100 years earlier, they were making small ovens, and they really weren't sure why the concept was, but most people thought they were to advertise the big ovens. So they made like a little image of it to show people the what it looked like and things like that. It could have been made as a toy, but most experts don't think so. So 100 years ago, they were making small ovens, but nobody really got the concept of toys, I don't think. So anyway, Kenner debuted the product in 1963. Easy Big Ovens came out in 1963. That's a long time ago. Of course, they used the light bulb power function, and they allowed children to emulate what their parents were doing. In their good morning, Sherry. They let their the children emulate or do the same thing that the parents were doing with their big ovens, which was which, as you might guess, making cookies and cakes and stuff, was a huge success. Now, the cost was $15.95 in 1963. That doesn't sound like much, but in today's money, that's about $160. So these things weren't like super cheap. However, people didn't care. Those kids wanted them. They advertised them on children's show, I'm sure. And lo and behold, they were selling a bunch of them. The demand was so high, they had to triple production the next year in 1964. Okay? So they were booming. And I know most people on here, if you were around in the 70s, 60s, 70s, you probably are familiar with. I mean, even people today, they're still making them today. And I don't know what the volume sales is, but I mean, they're still going out. And, of course, they've updated versions over and over, colors, designs, all that stuff. And more than 23, I looked at my notes wrong, 23 million have been sold. Good morning, Sue. Yeah, a lot of people had one as a child. I did not have one as a child, but I think my sister did. So that means I probably got the opportunity to eat some easy baked cookies and cakes when I was young. I'll have to ask her. Anyway, so 23 million had been sold. Okay, and in 2006, easy bake ovens were induced into the National Toy Hall of Fame. There you go. Easy bake ovens, a part of history. No kidding. All right, so my last story is kind of a serious story, but a story that I found really interesting and inspiring, actually. So in 1830, Josiah Henson, his wife, and their two youngest children took a huge risk by fleeing more than 1,600 miles from Fort Tobacco, Maryland, where Josiah Henson was born as a slave. Yeah, I bet you did get one. So he was born as a slave. This is 1830 is when they left, so really early on. They arrived in Canada, and they found that freedom that they wanted. That's what they were looking for, freedom. 1,600 miles. Now, the Hensons settled in Ontario, and it was at one of the last spots of the Underground Railroad, which commonly was freeing slaves, taking them from the United States that were slaved and getting them up, which was dangerous work, getting them into Canada where they could be free. Now, Josiah used his talent to contribute to the community there, because he was talented in a lot of different ways. He founded the Dawn Institute, a settlement house teaching trades to people like himself. So he was teaching them the trades that he had learned as a slave to people that didn't have those talents. So that was, he was doing a lot of great things there. Now, he loved his life in Canada, but at some point he started feeling guilty because he had got the freedom, and he knew there were a lot of people back in the United States that didn't have freedom. And remember, he got there in 1830, so this is well before freedom. I mean, we're talking, 20 years or so before any slave got freed in the United States. Anyway, so he lived his life, but all those people were back there in bondage. So he did really what some people would think was unthinkable, but noble. Josiah traveled back to the U.S. and helped guide 118 other slaved people to freedom. 118. He would continue to risk his own life by doing that. Now, he could have stayed safe in Canada. He didn't have to do this, but he risked himself to help other people. Now, his generosity and courage were believed to inspire the character of Tom in Uncle Tom's Cabin. So that's the rest of the story. So if you hear somebody called an Uncle Tom today, they usually mean it some kind of negative way. Like a black person is helping white people or something. I don't really know. I'm kind of ignorant to that kind of stuff. But I know that when people call someone an Uncle Tom, they're being negative. But the real Uncle Tom was a hero. He was a hero. So I leave you with this. If you can today, we can. We can get so comfortable in our own freedoms and our own life and how good sometimes we have it that we'll forget the people around us, the people that don't have it so good. And it can be as simple as someone that's financially strapped, someone that's physically strapped, someone that's in a job that they hate but feel trapped there, enslaved there because they're making enough income that they can't get out, and there's no other way they can make that kind of income. There's all kinds of different and I don't want to really use the word slave, because that kind of implies that these people had it like the slaves, and they don't. But there are a lot of people that are hurting, and sometimes we will get comfortable, and to the point where we don't recognize the people around us that are hurting. So today, I ask you, be aware of your surroundings. Be aware of the people around you that are hurting, and try to help. I mean, you can say a prayer, but there's a lot of times you can do other things. Sometimes just an encouraging word goes a long way to someone that feels discouraged. So I challenge you this weekend to kind of lift people up in whatever they need help with. All right. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have, please love it and share it. We need to grow this audience. If you're enjoying this, we need to let other people enjoy it. And the only way that's going to happen is if you guys share it and tell people about it. So with that, have a great weekend. I will be back Monday morning at 7:30 a.m. To give you some more great stories. All right. You guys take care. Be blessed. And I'll see you Monday.